I've completely finished The Artful Escape. I want nothing more than to talk about it in full. And that's fitting because we have the creative director, Johnny Galvatron here of Beethoven and Dinosaur. That was the longest intro ever. Johnny, hi, how are you? Welcome.
It's great to be here. Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to hear what you thought of the game. And we're both in Melbourne, living in lockdown, living the dream.
You could be anywhere in your house right now, Johnny, and you've chosen to be in a Zoom chat with me for an hour. I just can't thank you enough for being so gracious with your time.
I'm excited.
We might as well just go straight into that first. Mandatory COVID check-in. How are you doing?
Yeah.
In lockdown 6.
Yeah, well, we went gold on the Thursday, and then the snap lockdown happened on the Friday. So that kind of sucked. And now it looks like we're going to be in lockdown for the release and everything as well. So none of us have seen each other after years of working on this game. But, the bright side is we worked the whole time through COVID. We had a paycheck the whole time. So there's not that much to complain about, really.
Oh, I was gonna ask about, how does it feel to release during a time where you can't really celebrate, but that's a double hit. Have you guys started making plans to celebrate later on, or is that kind of that thing where it's let's not worry about it?
How can we make plans? We just keep getting locked down. I mean, I got vaxxed. I don't know what else to do.
Nice. AstraZeneca, Pfizer?
I got the Michelle Pfeiffer, yeah.
Nice. My husband's a radiographer at the Alfred, so he got the good stuff.
Nice.
I got AstraZeneca earlier than most, which is I'm not complaining.
Yeah.
And then people were complaining that I got it early, but then they managed to get both their Pfizer shots in between the window of my AstraZeneca shots. But anyway, we're all vaxxed up.
Let's not vax shame.
Take whatever you can get. Book an appointment. If you can get one, get one.
Do it.
In your public service announcement.
I need to have a beer, please. Everyone, get vaxxed.
You can't see it. Out that window, there was literally a pub, which I haven't been to in a while. Beside the pub is a BWS, which I've been to too frequently to want to probably admit, if I'm being honest. But
I feel you.
But that's kind of the best thing about. We'll actually talk about your game now, I promise.
Okay.
That's one of the best things about The Artful Escape. Literally a year ago, almost to the day, we somehow obtained a copy of Bill and Ted Face the Music, and we just kind of threw it on. It's this will be all right, this will be good. And by the end of the movie, literally just tears streaming down my face, the giantest smile, and I was this is just renewed me. I can go for months in lockdown. And a year later we're still here, but now I have The Artful Escape. So if Bill and Ted is Be Excellent to Yourself, I kind of think of The Artful Escape as Be Excellent. No, sorry, I just ruined it. If The Artful I did it again. We'll pretend this didn't happen. I'm going to leave this in because I'm inept. If Bill and Ted is Be Excellent to each other, The Artful Escape is Be Excellent to Yourself. Haha. That would have been so much better if I did it right the first time.
Just edit it, man. That's fine.
Well, whatever. Can you give me a bit of background? Because this game's been in the making for a while. We'll get to all this, but can you give me a background from your point of view on The Artful Escape?
Well, what is the background? Where do I begin?
2016, maybe. Maybe earlier.
Well, I went. I'll do the abridged version, which was I went to uni and did 3D computer animation, and then a week or two after I graduated, I got a record deal. Never used anything that I'd learnt. Toured for 5 years. Hardly came home. Hated touring. Band broke up. Came home. Went full hermit. Never wanted to leave the house again. Wrote a novel. Showed it to no one. And then I saw this kind of path that I could get into the games scene with an idea that I had, and I'm sure we'll go into it more later. But it all seemed to work out in the end. Here I am. The game's finished, and it's 25 years later.
So did the novel have anything kind of loosely to do with the idea behind The Artful Escape? No. Or no? Okay. And as you told me, so I want to paint a picture here, because if people are watching this video, I was horribly disappointed. It's not your fault. But the first time I got to see you, or in a while, to do anything with The Artful Escape, it was 7 a.m, 2 months ago. I literally rolled out of bed. I probably was sleeping on the couch to not wake up the husband, and just crawled over to Zoom, didn't turn on my camera. And you're just in the brightest room I've ever seen, surrounded just by plant, house plants as far as the eye can see.
Dinosaurs.
Pardon?
There was dinosaurs in there as well.
Were there
There's heaps of
dinosaurs? I was too busy looking at the plants and at the giant mural of David Bowie.
I know, it was a cool scene. I made a little set because I was going to have to do all my press from the office, but now I'm not even allowed to go into the office. So here I am.
Oh, I thought that was your living room, and I was
in an alabaster nightmare.
So is that all just sitting in the office still? You have none of that stuff in your house?
That's all in my office, just set up as a wonderful set, just for no one. Oh, I apologize. For this Richie Benno jacket of a background.
How very dare you? And you had sunglasses on at 7 a.m. too, which I absolutely respect. I probably should have thrown on sunglasses at that time myself.
Yeah, I keep one of my favorite novelists who describes that one of the characters is his eyes being piss holes in the snow. That really sung to me, and that's like after launching, after finishing a game and shipping a game, that's kind of how I look underneath. So I would wear a mask as well if I could.
So more for that than your own elaborate stage persona, or no?
Maybe I'd say there's a small percentage of that in there as well.
And that's what The Artful Escape is about. It used to be called The Artful Escape of Francis Vendetti. He is still the focal point of the entire game. He lives in the shadow of his uncle, a folk musician who's very Bob Dylan-esque, in a small town that basically just is everything about the town is about this folk musician as well. So Francis is not only in the shadow of his family and the legacy, he's also just kind of in the shadow of like expectations of the entire town he's lived in his entire life. It's kind of sounds depressing at that point until he decides to create, as we were saying, the most elaborate stage persona the world has ever seen. And then it becomes this like crazy space epic.
Yeah. I like that. I like that kind of juxtaposition of worlds. I think that's the like 90s Tim Burton that I love, that kind of Edward Scissorhands, like his like mansion, his dark gothic mansion, and then the pastel suburbia around the side, or that kind of conjunction in Beetlejuice as well of like the beautiful suburbia and the underworld. So yeah, I guess I kind of maybe that's my inner Burton coming out of trying to have those juxtaposed those clashing worlds.
There's kind of a lot of clashing worlds. So like we've dropped in Burton already. I've dropped in Bill and Ted. I think there's a lot of Bill and Ted in it. Obviously, it's like and that's how I've decided. That's how I'm going to refer to my Francis when we get talking, around that. Just so you know, and then we'll talk about that in more detail later on. Cool. When you get to the space bit, it becomes what I've kind of tried to describe as like a wholesome heavy metal without boobies, I guess. But like
sure. Yeah, that film heavy metal.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
Not the genre heavy metal.
Yeah. I feel that vibe. It's definitely got that kind of prog rock album cover vibe to it. And there's obviously a lot of places to like. There's a whole world of that kind of artistic scene and music. There's a lot to draw from. So yeah, I try and explore a couple of different kind of album covers. You know what I mean?
And some like Monty Python style kind of animations I was picking up on. I don't know if you were feeling that.
I love the Python. I'd say the way the kind of art style evolved is just me opening up Unreal 4 and being like, well, I can't really remember how to model much. I'll just kind of do some 2D stuff and throw it in the scene and see if I can make that look cool. And then that evolved into a little kind of video that I made, which was just me figuring out like how I was going to light the scenes. Kind of learned a lot about stage set, like theater lighting, because I thought that would be the best way to kind of light these scenes, these kind of flat backdrops. And then I made a little video and I sent it to Unreal because they were doing grants. And I was like, I didn't even apply. I was just like, is this the kind of thing you're looking for? I'm not really sure. And then they just sent me an email back that gave me like $20,000, like no in between email. No, like, yeah, that's good, you should apply. It was just like a check. And that's how I got enough money to kind of make the demo and
that's insane.
Start the game.
So Epic is sometimes the bad guy, but Epic is definitely not the bad guy in this instance.
Epic's not the bad guy to me in any way, shape, or form. Got love for Epic.
And we've been talking to a lot of developers, the guys behind Cult of the Lamb, which just got announced at Gamescom. They're heavily reliant on funding to get off the board from Screen Victoria. Screen Queensland helped Team Wibby with Phantom Abyss, which has recently come out on Steam. Did you tap into any other of those kind of grants, or was that was Epic kind of enough?
I think we applied.
What didn't we?
4 or 5 times for that grant.
Oh no! Yeah. And it's a no. It was a no.
A no. Yeah.
But clearly, you're a giant developer which has like a $500 million turnaround.
Yeah. Look, I think I don't know why they said no. And that may have been a big part of it. I'm sure there's other companies that didn't have publishing deals that could use it more.
But it doesn't matter.
So there's no bad vibes from me on Screen Victoria, that's for sure. They're a good bunch of kids.
Exactly. Doesn't matter. It's out. We saw it in 2016. It looked entirely different. Not entirely different. It looked drastically
different. Fair enough. Yeah.
And you've talked a bit to that as well. Was it just kind of you as you were crafting your idea and just kind of going, oh, I don't like that anymore. I can do it better.
Yeah, I do that constantly. I'd still be working on the game if I listened to that voice. But yeah, I was just trying to feel out the idea. I hadn't made a game before, and find my place in it, what was going to be cool, and how I could get music to work in it, and how I could bring my ideas visually into the game. And then once you could show that, once you have something to show people like that, it's very easy for them to bring their own talent and their own creativity to it and bring it to another level. So you can obviously see that with the illustrations, the animation. I thought it looked good at the time, my stuff. And then you get someone who's a pro on it and you realize, you're just stumbling in the dark. So it's, what a gift and a privilege to be able to, hire these artists and get them to flesh out the Artful Escape and make it better and bring their own awesome ideas to it. Very lucky.
Well,
there's a baby in the background that may occasionally yell on the mics.
If you need to go and tend to the baby at any point, everybody.
It's fine. It's in a cage.
Okay, well, it's only an hour. It's fine. So I was saying before that I think it's kind of Bill and Ted-esque, like cosmic. Go to the cosmos, see all the cool things, have amazing adventures. But it's not like you're not trying to save the world or the galaxy or the universe. You're just trying to find yourself, essentially.
I think a lot of the media that I get into is very character based, especially in the literature that I read, and I guess a lot of the quirky films that I get into. I like really long, boring films. That's my vibe. And I think, usually video games, as you were kind of talking about, they're very plot driven, about saving the world or saving someone who's kidnapped, or very plot heavy. And I wanted to do something that was very character driven. And so, it's really more about Francis finding who he needs to be than it is about him like completing some kind of material quest.
And there's it's this thing where I don't want to say too much because I don't want to ruin anything for anybody, because I think it's like one of these things that you just need to experience yourself. So we'll get to that in a second, though. How much of you is in this? Is there elements to you, finding the rock persona that you got the record deal with, or is this more about, like you realizing you needed to transition, like I guess from video games to rock back to video games, or is it just completely its own thing?
I think it's the opposite of my story. It's kind of like someone who finds an amazing, a magical world behind these doors that are unlocked by music. And I was kind of just didn't really like touring, and I like all the fun stuff that goes along with being in a rock band, and I like the parties for a while, and I like meeting my heroes. I like that a lot, actually. I kind of really enjoy like meeting famous people. meant to say that.
Who doesn't?
It's very uncool, like in the rock scene. But I was always just like, oh my god, it's Devo. I love you. So I think I'm more. You've played through the whole game, yeah?
Yeah.
I'm more like Lightman.
Ah.
I'm like the jaded star on the other side of the fence. You know, I feel like definitely relate more to Lightman than to the wonder-eyed Francis.
That's very courageous of you to admit, I think, especially if you finish the entire story arc. Because we'll get to him. There's so many things I want to get to, but I have a kind of thread that I want to try to take us through. And I did ask you this a couple months ago, but it was such a good answer. I want to kind of hit back into it again. You know, you're from Melbourne. I'm from Melbourne. It's this amazing cultural hub. It's like the coolest place in Australia. Like, too bad, Sydney. Byron, nah, you're
not
Hemsworths. We don't want them. I would take the Hemsworths, to be honest, but that's fine. And so rather, and you know, you have this your own actual stories of being a musician in Melbourne or around Melbourne, around Australia. But the game's set in Colorado, and I was just kind of curious as to, you know, you don't think we're good enough or what?
I think that it's my Artful Escape as well as like Francis's, and it was like an escape for me. It was like envisioning what I thought this rock and roll world would be, like this magical world of crazy encounters and stuff. And it's a lot more like Wollongong RSL than that, my story. And the last thing I wanted to do was kind of tell this story of my experience. That was not the vibe. It's not very, it's not an autobiographical story, really. And so I'd never toured America, and I'd never been to America, and that's the reason why it's in America. I was just trying to make it as far away as possible, and you know, so it starts in America and then goes across to the other side of the multiverse. So I think it wasn't something I wanted to relive creatively.
Well, and maybe if you could get Devo to come on and, you know, lend their vocal talents, maybe it would have been more autobiographical. You could have, you know, had them at the Wollongong RSL. Would have been great.
Devo were not at the Wollongong RSL. Devo were at Splendor in the Grass. And at Splendor in the Grass, they have like a little bleachers side stage that if you get there quick enough, you can sit in the bleachers, because you're not allowed to kind of, you know, in some festival shows you see everyone around the sides, like you can't do that at Splendor. So I got to be in the bleachers to watch Devo, and I was like, my favorite Devo song is That's Good, and they played it like third, and I was just, what a moment. Loved it. This fun, you know, like so close to them. Loved it. It's a Devo story.
No, I like it. I like that story. And I apologize to Devo for implying that they were ever at the Wollongong RSL if they are listening. I think I'm safe. I think I'm safe. It's fine. But you did with Annapurna get access, from what you've told me in the past. I'm kind of assuming, just asking like this, but you've told me this. I know this, that you've been provided access via Annapurna to like huge names. And we were talking about Lightman before. He's Carl Weathers, who is insane.
Carl fucking Weathers. Hey, can you believe it? Yeah. I didn't write those baby lines. He added them. I will say that. I never wrote like Youngblood or any of those lines. Like, I just wouldn't know to write that kind of thing, you know? So Carl was like, no, this needs to, he would have said this. And I was like, sick, man, you do whatever you want.
So Lightman is this kind of mentor to Francis. He starts him on his journey. There's other stuff that happens. He's liberal with the babies and the young bloods. He has very much his own persona. Yeah. Was that just Carl bringing in Carl, or was that you kind of briefing him on what you wanted Lightman to be, and or how did that come about?
I'll tell you from my angle, like how Carl got involved. This is the luxury of like being an Annapurna game. Is they're like, you know, who you thinking for Lightman? I'm like, well, who can I have? They're like, you know, what level are we talking? They're like, anyone. Who would you want? I'm like, Carl Weathers, number one. They're like, we'll get back to you. Like, sick. A couple of weeks later, Carl's in. And then a couple of days later, he's in the studio and he's reading all the nonsense that you wrote. And it's amazing. I wrote him as like this kind of Bootsy Collins, kind of like jazz, funk, blues kind of guy who was like, who had been really big in the beginning of his career, but had kind of dropped off, not reached the peaks that people had thought he would. And him just like searching for that spark again, which is where it comes across Francis. And I was just telling Carl, like, you know, what year it was set in. You know, this guy would have been big around the 50s, and then now it's like the 70s. And I was just giving him a whole bunch of musicians like James Brown, Bootsy Collins, and you know, Sly and the Family Stone, stuff like that. And he was like, oh yeah, like, no, he would. I had him say kid a lot, so he was like, you know, what are you doing, kid? And he was like, you wouldn't say kid, he'd say young blood. I'm like, sick. Chuck that in. And then he would just be like going off script and just like being like, oh, don't worry about it, baby. I was like, yeah, go. And so, yeah, I was like, that was my first ever vocal like session. So I was quite nervous. But we have Ashley, a director there who's like amazing, showed me the ropes. And then, yeah, about halfway through, I kind of got the vibe and I was jumping in on the mic. And yeah, kind of explaining the stories, and I would show them bits of the game, which is good because apparently that doesn't happen much, but like right at the end of production when we were recording the voices, so could show them the whole scenes and kind of get the vibe. And nice. Yeah, I mean, everyone I worked with was just an incredible joy, like just so professional, and just like so many cool stories from it. Like definitely like real moments for me. Like I just spoke to Jason Schwartzman for an hour, like the day before we recorded, and we spoke about David Bowie and Bob Dylan, and you know, it was just like what an amazing thing. And then he came into the studio and he was like, he had like all these different hats that he brought in and capes, and he had an umbrella and a little like synthesizer, and he would like do a line one way and then he'd throw the cape around the other way and do it again. It was like so cool. And like Mark Strong came into the studio, and like the dude who was I'll tell you what, I don't know if I'm allowed to speak about this, but you have a code name when you record everything, like, you know, like Star Wars was Blue Harvest or whatever.
Yeah, so the fans can't
like jump in on the Zoom call or whatever. And the dude who was recording Mark Strong was a huge Mark Strong fan, but his name wasn't on the call sheet. So like could hear on the mic when Mark Strong came into the studio, and the dude's like, Mark fucking Strong, you fucking get it, this is amazing. I was like, Mark Strong's like, thank you very much. Yeah. He was suave as fuck. He was so cool. Sorry for swearing too much.
You're fine. He strikes me as one of these guys who's probably like the nicest, warmest, like most gentle people in the world, but like in anything he's in, like Kingsman comes straight to mind, just like the most terrifying person in the history of the world.
Yeah, no, he was lovely. Absolutely lovely. Like all the voice actors I work with just like were just so determined to like give me what I wanted. You know what I mean? They weren't trying to I don't know. I didn't encounter any egos, that's for sure. It was like incredible experience.
You have Lena Headey is probably the other. Is that the only other huge name? You only have four huge names.
Four huge names. And then Michael Johnston and Caroline Kinley play. Who
were voicing like way back in the day, right? Like you've brought them through the journey, weren't they? Kind of
Michael was in. When like a couple of years ago, maybe we thought, oh, should we do VO? And then we decided not to, but we used him. And he was just the only one that we got recorded. And we we're like, damn, the kid is good. And then we got into, he was the easiest to cast for sure.
He is so good.
He kills it, doesn't he? He's amazing.
He starts off kind of like hesitant, but like purposely, like not like vocally hesitant, like bad, but like true to Vincent. Francis.
But lots of people say that. I wonder what that is. There's like a weird Vincent Spaghetti. I get that a lot.
Vincent Spaghetti. I don't know. It's maybe because it's Johnson. No, I can't say the surname now. It's
Vendetti.
Vendetti. Thank you. Maybe I'm just unprofessional. We'll just go with that. It's fine. Francis and Johnson and Lightman. I got the names. They're there. And the Cosmic Lung. But by the end, he like you can feel the confidence building in the performance, which is exactly his arc. It's perfect. He's so good at what you've gotten him to do, which is great.
He's great.
You don't need to be Lena Headey sometimes. You just need to be yourself. And that's
she was great. She came in and she did like 10 different accents. She was like, "Which one would you like?" And I was like, "Oh, so much fun."
Game of Thrones, please.
Yeah.
You mean my normal accent?
Regal, please.
Yes. Game of Thrones. There's nothing wrong with that either.
She was so hilarious. She was doing I always say metal, like, oh yeah, that was metal. And then she started doing like impressions of me. She's going, yeah, fucking metal, mate. I was in tears.
Like we haven't talked about, it's a game about music. Really.
Oh yeah.
we haven't talked about music at all. And there's a whole bunch of Australians that helped you contribute like hours and hours of music. So please enlighten me.
Yeah, well, I've worked with Josh Abrahams for my whole musical career. He rocked up at my door, my apartment one day, and said, I heard you making some weird Van Halen shit. And I was like, what are you doing here, Josh Abrahams? And then he came in and listened, and we made had some demos together, and then that was what got me my record deal. And we just made music for years and years just for fun. And I finally got to pay him. I finally got to give him some money, so I felt really great about that. But me and Josh worked on everything together. I'll actually say Josh did quite a few tracks just by himself. Easily my like most smooth working relationship and collaborator. Always enjoy it. Wonderful to work with, and extremely talented, and has the best synthesizer collection I've ever seen in my entire life. He has a room that's bigger than my house, which is just the synthesizers he doesn't use. And
he'll never know if one or two is missing.
Yeah. No, he fucking would, man. So we were always going to work on the game together, and he's done a bunch of films. He wrote Addicted to Bass, which I will always talk about. Josh doing Addicted to Bass, and he brought Eden Altman in, who plays the guitar in the game, and he's a Melbourne dude, and my God, he's just good. It's very easy to work with. You just put on some tracks and be like, shred for 25 minutes, and I'll cut it up. Yeah, he's just a wild, and he played like Lightman's guitar as well. That's really bluesy and just like has such a great voice. You know, because sometimes we were just like, no, I want it more like more Pink Floyd. Like, give me that kind of slow melodic vocal kind of spaced out solo. And then other times we're like just Van Halen the hell out of it. He's double tapping around. He's just great. And then the other musician we worked with is Luke Leggs, who I've known from high school. I saw him, he was a couple of years older than me, and he came and played at our school fun run in his band, Mr. Miyagi. And I thought he was the coolest dude in the world ever. And years later, I played in his band a little bit. And then I heard this track, The Banks of the River Are Lined with Gold, which is what the game opens with. And I was like, oh, Luke, yes, we will use that. And he lives down the coast and is just a total chill dude, plays folk music. And it was really awesome to like be able to include him after like knowing him and jamming with him for so long.
And there's like, it's such a range of music in the game. Like, it starts with folk, obviously, because that's kind of where Johnson starts, and that's where Francis is expected to start. And it's kind of playing through the multi-leveled calypso environment.
It kind of haunts him wherever he goes. In calypso, it's like playing in the woods and it's playing in the town. Then when he goes in the house, it's on the radio. He can't escape it. There's kind of little stories that we tell like that through the music.
And then just full on like rock opera, and like, you know way more about the different genres and stuff than I would, so I'm probably doing a disservice trying to explain it myself. So I might
rock opera is great.
Okay, yeah. Well, and then like I'm nuanced enough to realize that it kind of changed thematically each level that you play through, but I couldn't describe it. You could probably. Well,
it's like we've got a few different sounds. Like we've got that kind of early 60s folk. We've got real rock opera kind of Bill and Ted, Steve Vai, symphonic angle in the Heliodrums. Then we've got then we kind of cruise into a more ethereal Pink Floyd slow jam vibe, and then it kind of whistles off into Paul Simon, Talking Heads, kind of Afrobeat stuff with some crazy Adrian Belew octavated guitar in there, and then some Close Encounters of the Third Kind jam as well.
And there's layers to that. Obviously, there's like the background music, which is always there, and then as Francis, you can choose to like hold down X and just shred through the entire level if you want to.
Yeah, well, I think, there's this. There's two parts to that. One is that like the story of the Artful Escape I think most games would have probably approached this about like the games about becoming a better guitar player. But Francis is a prodigy. He doesn't need to become a better guitar player. His story is about developing the satellite aspects that go around his music, his core medium, his image, the rumors about him, the narrative of his character. So I think that's reflected in the gameplay. It's reflected in how he plays guitar and how he jams. The way we kind of got it to work, because it's tricky. Like if you can give the player control of the music. How do you get it to work? How do you get it to blend in with a game that's so musical on a background level, and then your foreground element is more music? So like, how do you get that to work? So we kind of just started messing around and like trying to get stuff in singular keys that we could run through, and then we would record lots of shredding and over different tracks, because there's different tracks in the same key that go through different worlds and has to work over all of them. Like if you notice in like and when you I don't want to give too much away, but there's like there's music in Calypso in his hometown, and then there's various different, like sometimes there's a little bit of jazz that plays, but it's the same riffs that work over all of that music. And the way it works is it's kind of like Dark Side of the Rainbow, which if you're watching this and you don't know what that is, it's when you put you start playing Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon on the third roar of the MGM Lion of The Wizard of Oz, they match up. They don't really match up. It's just your brain trying to look for pattern recognition in between the visual and the audio, but you can do it audio and audio, and that's what we do. So you might have like a little counter melody, and the guitar will play, and you're like, wow, that harmonized perfectly with that counter melody, or it hit that crescendo at exactly the right time, but it's not really doing that. It's just arranged in a way that you'll try and gain meaning from how those sounds interact. And thank God that worked, because if it didn't,
you tricked me, but I'm all for it.
Hey, if it sounds good, it's because it's your brain. Your brain put it together.
So I just held down X through every level that I played through.
Some people do play that.
Like, is that sure. How would you approach it? Is that
that's how I play. That's how I play, and that's how like Arden, our illustrator, plays as well. Then like Shawnee, our like technical director, he doesn't play as much guitar. So I think we'll do whatever you want.
With the occasional, like because when you get an idea of what the music's like in the background, that's when you start jumping and like that and add it in as well, and then you feel like you're some sort of prodigy yourself, which I am not. I was lead chair of the high school like band. I play saxophone, so I could play notes. But that's like 23 years ago or something by now.
I don't know if sax was cool 23 years ago. It's cool now. You should have kept with it.
I don't even have, it's in my parents' basement in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. So they've probably sold it, if we're being honest here. Yeah. But like there are sections of the game, there's a musical key, and you have 5 notes, and sometimes it's kind of like a rock band style, like match the notes to this challenge. And then other times you just get free reign. And I can play music, I can read music, but I can't create music, if that makes sense. But I was still finding that everything I was doing still sounded good. Is that just because I am so good, I just don't realize, or is there some trickery that involved there as well?
It's just that you're so good.
Well, I'll take that.
I think it's funny, like the call and response stuff, we obviously we've done a lot of play testing and stuff like that, and people really dig that. I think it's because a lot of music games don't feel very musical to me, because they're not effortless. They're difficult. And like when you're playing Smells Like Teen Spirit, I'm not thinking about what note comes next. I know what note comes next. And I think we all tried to get that feeling of being at one with the music, of being able to play and know what comes next and have that power, as opposed to the other way around where everything's running at you and you're trying to keep up. Which is, that's not going to be for everyone. But I'm not making Rocket League, so it's fine. I don't want to make it's just something that everyone loves, which is Rocket League. I'm glad no one pitched Rocket League to me, because It sounds silly, but it's brilliant.
True.
Yeah, so I think, we definitely took a different approach, like a more musical approach to gameplay, which was making you feel powerful as opposed to making you feel that you were reaching for that kind of virtuosity.
And it's obviously it's nice because there's a lot of people who are probably a little bit more depressed or feeling down as compared to what they would be feeling. I don't know if this was 2018 or something, but like obviously it's not the point to just be uplifting and amazing. Well, maybe it is the point to be uplifting and amazing, and I'm cool with that.
Yeah, look, I think most of my stuff's very positive. I'm a big Star Trek fan. I'm down for Utopia.
Man, okay, the next half an hour we're just talking about Star Trek now.
Yeah,
perfect.
Next gen.
Well, here,
next gen's my bag.
This is in reach. It's the closest one I had. It's the Enterprise F from Star Trek Online.
Sick.
Which is a free-to-play MMO if you have time in lockdown and you want to get into your Star Trek. But anyway,
I've never played it. Is it worth it?
It's free, so at least if you don't like it, you won't be upset that you paid money for it. Oh, that's a horrible segue for what I was going to talk to you about next.
That's fine. Let's pretend you didn't say it.
So this is on Xbox Game Pass, which is
it
not
is on
free.
Xbox
You
Game
have to
Pass.
Subscribe to Xbox Game Pass.
Yeah, you do.
Dude, effortless segue there. Jeez.
Yeah.
Whenever you talk about Game Pass to someone, like I've talked to Phil Spencer about Game Pass, and you can kind of see him like just tense up. He's so media trained. He's amazing. But you can kind of just see him tense up and just be like, oh, we're not talking about money. I don't want to talk about money and how that all works. Yeah. But I would like to know kind of how the decision to put the Artful Escape on Game Pass came to be. If it was something that you've decided to do, if it's something that Annapurna suggested. Okay, you want to talk? Let's talk finance.
No, I mean, like, this isn't. It's not my. It's not my scene, really. I don't try and jump in on those kind of decisions about where the game will be launched and how it will be launched, because I don't have any experience in that field at all, and I kind of, we all handball that stuff to Annapurna, and they've made brilliant decisions for us so far and for other games. I'm really excited to be on Game Pass. I think it's super cool. I think a lot of people who wouldn't have played the game are going to play the game now. I think it's really good for us as a studio that lots of people are going to play that game and maybe want to play what we do next. I think it's a wonderful silence, child. So I think it's lovely. I'm stoked that they would have us.
I can't, more eyeballs, like literally more people just accept it, like having instant access to your game, like 12 minutes with Annapurna before it, with I Am Dead, which is Annapurna. They're putting out some awesome stuff. So
yeah, they don't miss, do they?
No, and I think like it's despite the dig at Star Trek Online and like the horrible segue, I think it's a very smart idea for Game Pass. And of course, there's other options. If you're more of a Steam person, you've got Steam as well. So it's not limiting anybody. It's just kind of opening up to people.
Yeah, I agree with that. Totally.
Nice. I'm an achievements person. I'm going to talk to you about achievements, and we can put this in the spoiler bit. I can shift it to the spoiler bit at the end.
Okay.
Did you get to control how the achievements were allocated? Are you an achievements person too?
I do know what?
Just answer them all right now.
Okay, cool. I'm not really an achievement person. I'm more of just kind of a main narrative person. And I am a crazy side quest person as well. Don't get me wrong. But it's a game that's not. It's like a game that's not achievement based, kind of, really, is it? It's like it's about an internal journey of character. So and it's a game that I saw you'd sent me some questions before. I'm getting meta, but the how do you describe the Artful Escape? And I don't know, it's hard to answer, isn't it? What do you think it is? How do you categorize it?
I don't know, and that's why I wanted to ask you, because it's like kind of a walking simulator, but not, because those
it's too
find
much
are very boring.
Not walking.
Well, yeah, and it's sort of a platformer, but it's very, very light on like fail states, and then it's sort of a rhythm game, but not really. Because in the same way that you can like fall off a platform and it means nothing to you, like if you can't like get the 3-note combo that you're supposed to immediately, it just like try again. So like
well, that's what music is like. I play a lot of bad notes. You just keep going, man. Hope
So
no
I don't
one
know what to
noticed.
call it. What genre do you have to put this in a genre? I suppose.
I guess people like you to put it in a genre. It's an adventure game with cosmic musical elements.
Ooh, that's a good answer. You've thought about this before.
So yeah, it is. It's a weird game. It goes off in quite weird branches. I don't know how much I'm going to give away, but gets weird.
Well, and like we can finish this question in the spoiler bit if you want, and we can put it right at the end. But I'm almost mad at myself because I think I walked away with 825 gamer score, and you get most of the achievements just by playing. And then I thought I did kind of like everything I could do, not like to get an achievement, but just because I wanted to. So I walked around Calypso holding X, and that's important. Like cool.
Oh, yeah.
I even don't want to talk about these things, and I said this is spoiler. We'll move it to spoiler.
Yeah.
What did I miss? And I will move this to the end if you want. We'll pick this up at the end.
Okay, sure.
And if people don't want to hear about it, we'll wait till the very end. But I'm gonna get those remaining ones. It's gonna if it kills me.
Yeah. Do you know what I have them? Okay, cool. That's fine.
Well, and I'm just also curious because I thought I interacted with everything. Like the game makes me want to do that.
It's pretty tricky.
Well,
there's a couple of tricky ones in there.
Okay, fine.
I've got a message from JB here. Actually, he sent me Justin Blackwell's one of our main programmers, and I was like, "Send me the achievements. I must know them."
But there's also level select and stuff. So like, it's not like you have to play like you can obviously if you'd like to just keep playing it over and over and over, you absolutely can.
Yeah.
So like, if you do miss something, you can just jump back in. It's very fail state like light, which
it
I
is.
Think
it really
great.
is. Yeah. Well, I feel it when we were at the first when we were designing the game. We're like, does Francis need to die a lot or kill anyone to make his stage persona? The answer is no. I love games, but there are some like tropes that annoy me, which is just like I don't want to rag on anyone's game personally, but just like killing people when you don't need to. Like I don't mind killing people in games if it's relative to the story. Yeah. But if I'm like, I'm trying to start my radio station and I'm killing police, I'm just like, what is this? I'm so juxtaposed.
If Rocket League introduces a kill count, you're going to be questioning.
Yeah. Like, why? What's the point? So yeah, I think fail states not a lot. Killing very minimal.
Good. No, which is good. And like the second half of the game about finding your stage persona is really all about customization. And it's this thing where like I don't want to talk about it, but I want to talk about it generally. And I think I feel like you're in the same way, but we'll get to that question in a second. To me, like in my mind anyway, Francis starts out as, he's doing this, he's doing that, he's doing this. And then you get to the customization and like my brain kind of flipped and it's like, well, they are doing this because they might not be a he, or like if I'm in control of Francis, obviously. Yeah. So if he wanted to be a he or a she or a they, like you have options to kind of just do whatever you want. So it's not like the story of that Francis, it's the story of your Francis.
Persona. Yeah.
I'm assuming that's intentional, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, because it's not a branching narrative, the story, and the input you have is to Francis's stage persona and his backstory and what planet he came from and stuff like that. And you obviously get to customize his stage outfit, which I think we did a really good job on. I think customization is dope. I've seen yours.
Yes, I sent it to you. I made sure you saw it.
It's metal as fuck. So that's where the kind of the player interaction comes from, the player driving the branching segments of the game. One of my favorite sections of the game is a talk show that you go on where you talk about your backstory, and I really enjoyed writing that. It's like this crazy branching dialogue that goes out to the power of the 64. It's like massive. It's the most ridiculous Unreal blueprint you've ever seen.
Nice. I know what I picked from it.
What did you do?
Oh, I don't want to say.
Okay, you can't say.
I'll tell you later if you want.
Okay, cool.
I don't want it because that to me is like part of the mystique and the amazingness of this. There's so many options. Like it's you're never going to have the same person picking the same option. So you can go to your friend and like, what's your Francis like?
Yeah.
Sorry, I cut you off.
That's it. That's my answer.
Good. So like I've shown a picture of my character to you. because
Yes.
I love my Francis. I want to share with everybody. There's a photo, there's a bit of dialogue, and I don't know if you can turn off the dialogue boxes, but it worked perfectly regardless because it popped up on the screen. It's my like this bitchin' character, and it says I'll play, and I'm like, absolutely, I'll play this game. And that was going to be the featured image on the review, and then I'm like, no, I can't do that because that's
that
too
breaking?
much. That's showing too much. I don't want to show people that. And I guess I'm curious, like, I don't want to tell people the options that I selected to get to my character. I don't want to kind of allude to what options they can select. I don't want to show the costumes that you could cobble together to make your own. Like, is that am I going too far or what?
No, I think we're going to share some of the character customization before the game launches. So no, I don't think that's too much. And I definitely encourage people to share like their costumes and their names. Like there's a little stage when you go to customize your character that says your name and your title, and you can shred there and take a photo. So I hope people share their creations.
That is one of the other photos that I showed you. So yes, of course I did that too. And I will happily share that with people after the fact. I kind of just want everybody to get to that almost themselves personally.
Yeah, right.
I have a different marketing plan. I'm not telling you what to do, of course.
Yeah.
Don't worry. Before we spoil, I forgot to ask in terms of music, like, are you planning a soundtrack? Is there plans to release a soundtrack?
Yeah, the soundtrack will be coming out with the game.
Yes.
And then maybe later down the road, we'll do some cool physical stuff.
Tour.
Go on tour? No,
yes,
please don't make me.
Well, luckily, RSL, or at least come to like the Cheltenham RSL or something.
I just want to tour to the local pub, man. I can't even do that.
We'll get someone to bring a synthesizer, someone to just kind of like hand you a guitar. Perfect. I'm down with that.
Done.
And the last thing I want to talk about in terms of before we like spoil maybe is, I'm still scared to do it for some reason. I've got to get out of that mentality. You were talking about like lame jazz. I thought it was pretty good, to be honest.
Lame jazz. It's not bad, but jazz is just an infinite library of volumes. You know what I mean? Like you can, if you don't listen to a lot of jazz, I don't think you can know. It's like that, you listen to one Stravinsky symphony. Do you know about classical music? And that's what I feel like I am with jazz. I've heard some jazz, but I bet it's lame. And that's the thing. I don't even know if it's lame. Maybe it's cool, but
generic
jazz.
I don't.
Generic.
I'm not want to calling it generic, but maybe it's better as generic instead of.
Maybe it's just generic jazz.
Is that better?
Look,
I don't know if that's better.
I don't know if it's better. To me, it's just lame jazz. And I apologize to the jazz community.
There you go. All right. Well, before we get into the spoiler bit, is there anything you wanted to say about the Artful Escape that you can say to anybody who wants to listen before they potentially turn off if they haven't played yet? Anything?
It's out on September the 9th. When's this coming out?
Probably the September the 9th, maybe earlier.
It's out today or September the 9th, whatever is closer.
I think we can get away with this bit early, but we'll make sure. So if I can, it'll go up early because like Annapurna's not paying me, you're not paying me. I wasn't paid for the review, but I will sing the praises of this damn game like from the heavens. It's so good. So
thank you.
I want people to know about it. People already know about it, but I want to ram it down their throats in a nice, consensual way.
You're right.
Lockdown. I'm blaming lockdown for the lockdown.
That's
brain.
fine.
Okay.